Come guess me this riddle, what beats pipe or fiddle? What's harder than mustard and milder than cream? What best wets your whistle, what's clearer than crystal, sweeter than honey and stronger than steam? What can make the dumb talk, what can make the lame walk, and what's the elixir of life and philosopher's stone? And what helped Mr. Bruno to dig the Thames Tunnel? Sure wasn't it whiskey from old Irish home? So we'll stick to the great, you're the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. And boys, I'd half wonder if lightning and thunder was made from the plunder of whiskey, me boys. Oh, that's good. If you're unfamiliar with the show, what we're doing tonight is we're going to continue on with part 3 of Boss of the SOC competition review from the version 1 dataset. Now, this is freely available. If you scroll up in the chat, and I'll throw it in one more time, you can play along as well. Now, with that, we also have, you can sign up for that. You can log in. This week, we're going to do the level 2 stuff, which is ransomware based. So, with the ransomware stuff, what we are aiming to do, what I did previously is I went over some bare basics the week 1, which was going over Splunk, how does Splunk work, along with what is it to do data sets and how do you do keyword matching. Last week, we went into how to use intelligence with the type of keyword matching that we're looking for and some ways that you can do multi-stage investigations across, a multitude of stuff. One second, let me move some stuff around because every time I share my screen, I end up showing something I don't mean to. Okay, wonderful. So in this, if you're not familiar with it, you can log into that particular thing. Please let me do this right. Yes, excellent. Okay, so this is the Boss of the SOC, and again, this is a free data set that's it's pretty amazing that it's free. Now, it is from 2016, so you're going to have, I say that because as part of the game, as part of the work that you're doing, or as part of the stuff that you're investigating, you have to keep in mind that, there's going to be some slight differences. For example, one of the data types is called stream HTTP. Nowadays, six years later, HTTPS is pretty standardized across just about everything. It's very rare that you'll find an open HTTP and website that's just hanging out on the internet. Most of the time, it's very, very it's utilizing HTTPS. Furthermore, another difference is I found today, which we'll get into, is it looks like the workstations that were utilized in this data set were XP based. So being that they're XP based, there's going to be slight differences, which we'll get into in a little bit. If you're unfamiliar, though, with this at all, and this is your first time here, which I saw somebody in there, Dana Hellman, how was your week? It was all right. It's good enough. Appreciate you asking. But if you're unfamiliar with this, it is a scenario for a particular individual. Her name is Alice, and she is working for Wayne Enterprises in the mythical world that includes, the DC world that includes Batman and the Joker and Poison Ivy. In this case, Poison Ivy is the name of the group that is actively hacking them. Now, if you take a look at this, when you log in, you'll take a look at scenarios. Welcome to Boss of the SOC, blah, blah, blah. And we are looking at scenario 2 today, ransomware, which we covered in the part 1 and part 2, all of scenario 1. If you click on these links, specifically what you want is gettingstarted.splunk.show, which will bring you to here, and we will be configuring that in just a second. But if you want to read up on what this scenario is, you can take a look at some of the supporting instances, this is all the background of the scenario, as well as, the birth of Gotham City, so on and so forth. This is her particular blog entries. This is anytime, and this is a good note, anytime that you encounter a new Splunk instance, you really need to understand the data and the way that it's sorted, organized, and indexed within the Splunk instance, because that's how you can significantly impact operations if you don't particularly look. This one, different from scenario one, this one has ESS content importer, I believe. And this is a nice little description of what each type of data is available here. I'm not going to play it because I'm not sure we have the rights to it, but you can listen to the actual audio recording from the message that's like, hey, you are hacked and pay us this, that, and the other. It comes up a little bit here and there. This is the particular screenshot from the system. Your documents, photos, and everything has been encrypted. You have to do Bitcoin. Oh, you guys remember these Bitcoin prices? Within 7 days, you can purchase this product at a special price, 1.24 Bitcoin or $510. Yeah. After 7 days, the price will increase up to 2.48 or $1,020 Bitcoin. Whoo! I wish I could get Bitcoin nowadays at that price. God. The how-tos, the whatever else. Yeah. So this is how old this stuff is. And then we'll get to this. That's a little piece of whatever. But so let's go ahead and get started. As I said, this is a CTF style event. It's very similar to if you were to do hack the box, try hack me, or whatever, another black box pen testing CTF scenario. However, in this, we are looking for defensive flags. So what I did with part 1 versus part 2 of last scenario was I did the CTF style, which we're going to do today. And then I followed it up with the investigation style and kind of sped run through what an investigation would look like. Today, we're going to actually do the ransomware one, somewhat similar to an investigation, but we're going to talk a little bit about timelines as we do this. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started with scrolling down. The very first question is, what was the most likely IPv4 address of this particular desktop on 24th August 2016? Now, this is the desktop that got ransomed. Okay, that's the one that actually had the ransomware. In this instance, we would start at the point of what we knew to be infection and then work backwards. That's one method of doing it. Identify where the point of effect occurred, that the symptoms, and then start working backwards from there and trying to find the actual point of execution, or also the point of compromise. You can go back to the point of delivery of the individual payload that was used to compromise the host, etc., etc. End of the week that ends with this is a pretty good week. Oof. All right. So in this, let's go ahead and start with 200. And what we're going to do, I've got my notes, sorry. We're going to switch over to this screen. Make sure that can be seen. Now, we don't want to have this set to all time. Why? Well, it's unnecessary. Why are we going to search for 6 years of records that don't exist? We're going to go down to a date range. We're going to go between, and I know this data set exists, 01 to 2016, and 30, might be 31 technically, 2016. But the question very explicitly was asking about the 24th. So we're just going to go ahead and click on the 24th to make things easy. Same here, 24th. Okay, so we're going to apply that. And then next we are going to go index equals bots SV1 source type. Now what we are looking for very specifically is the combination of the host name and then the IP address for that day. So we can start off with going host source type here because we're only looking for 24 hours worth of records. And then the host name was WE8105 desk, right? All right. And I'm going to go ahead and stop because we're already at 63,000 events. A little too much. So why don't we refine this just a bit? And we're going to take a look at, let's say, the Windows event log, because that will have the most likely combination of host name versus networking information. Now, that's something that you guys will get to understand as you do this on a regular basis. When you look at networking data, you can, I'm not going to say never, because there are some instances. I used to see them a lot on firewall logs because we had that built in and tied. But frequently, if you look at networking data, you're only going to see the IP address, not necessarily any association with the actual host name. So in this, you can actually look for Windows event logs where you'll more than likely have the host name, or there's a couple different names for it. And then, either destination address, source addressing, whatever else to actually associate those two things together. Okay, 10,000. We definitely narrowed that down. Computer name equals, got that. Show all 23 lines. Well, I'm not seeing what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is either a host or destination form of information. Now, here's one thing to also keep in mind. This looks a little jumbled, right? This looks just unusual. Well, unfortunately, and this is what is a real pain working with Windows logs from this event log, this is the way it comes. And it's not easy to parse on this stuff because Windows does a very odd type of logging where you have all this is included every time you see a login. Every single time there is a Windows login, you get this full-on type 1 is a full token, type 2 is an elevated token, type 3 is which we all know. If you're working this long enough, you'll know what this all means already. But it can be hectic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look very specifically for code name of address. I want address as in either IP address or some other forms. That cut it in half again. We're down to 5,000. All right. Source network address 192.168.250.100. So this is logon, network information, source network address, and you can see that the account name is that specific login, and we have the ID. So we can pull this source network address and give it a try. That's correct. Now, real quick, one of the things to keep in mind here is if you are a defender in this company's enterprise environment, you would already know that. You shouldn't have to necessarily go back through the logs and take a look at everything, because you should have and be very astute in having some form of asset management where, if you have a system that is compromised, you should be provided right off the bat the IP address at the time or the believed IP address at the time, and also the host name in the ticket. It's easy to automate that stuff. Brian Godfrey at SecIT. Chase the event code, narrow your time frame. Yeah, that's another way that you can do as well. You can 100% do that. But remember, what we're looking for right now is just the network information. And we don't have an actual attack yet. We don't know the actual timestamp of this yet. Now, we know it was on the 24th. Here's another good one. Let's go ahead and back all this out. I'm going to kill half of this real quick. Next one we're going to take a look at is, and I'm going to back this out to 01, but you make a good point about the timestamp. And I'm going to show real quick what that looks like. Oh, nope, stop. I do not mean to search for anything. In this, they're going to ask about, amongst the Suricata signatures that detected the Cerber malware, which one alerted the fewest number of times? Submit only the signature ID value as the answer. Okay, so what do we want to search for? Well, Suricata, which is the network security review, and apparently it had a Cerber alert. So we're going to search for Suricata and Cerber. We only have 5 events. Now, with 5 events, we could theoretically start walking through this and go, okay, of this is blah, 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 blah. And we could count, and specifically what we're looking for is we are looking for alert signature ID here. And we could say, I want this, and count each and every individual one. But we can make it a little easier too. We're going to add to search events. And then I'm going to actually remove this. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pipe it into a new one, and I'm going to say, hey, stats count by that particular field. In which case, I don't know if you can see it. In fact, I don't think you can. There we go. That helps. Okay. There we go. All right. So in this, we pulled out the alert signature ID count by unique value for this specific field. We found that we have this one specific requirement, and we have a count of 1. That would be the least amount that occurs. So we'll copy and paste that right in here. And that's correct. Now, here is the one that I was talking about. What fully qualified domain name, FQDN, does the Cerber ransomware attempt to direct the user to at the end of its encryption phase? All right. Well, here's what we know. We know, now I got to back all this out again. We know that the attack with Cerber happened around these events. So we're going to take a look at view events. We want to take a look at the events. We have 5 events to take a look at. And of that, we see that they are around 5:15:12 all the way down to 4:49:24. So what we're going to do is take this time frame, and we're just going to go ahead and put plus minus 30 minutes. This is going to give us the records before and after that event for 30 minutes on each end. All right. And that will apply that. And that's going to actually give us an attack time frame of a 1 hour window plus minus 30 minutes, like I said, from that specific part of the attack. And that's where we're going to start using timelines. Now, you can adjust this however you want because it's part of the date time range. So some instances, it's great to go out all the way down to 4 hours, or it can be as little as, I've done it outwards of 12 hours, because what I was looking for was a specific email event that the user received, and then they didn't click on it for another 7 hours, and then they clicked on the event, and that started the download in the background, right? In this case, we're going to go for an hour, see what we see. We're going to remove Cerber. But we do need to define something because this is too broad of a statement. So I believe 250-100. We're going to see what Suricata events happen. There are 21, 30, 40, 52,000 Suricata events that occurred for this one particular IP address. A little too much. How about this, though? What are they looking for specifically again? They are looking for the fully qualified domain name. Well, as we know, domain names generally actually come from a DNS. So in that case, we can go DNS. We are looking for that DNS. Let's take a look and see what the types of events are. Okay, 2600. A little better. What's some things that we can actually... oh, here we go. Query type. If we take a look at query type, and the query, it's not quite what we're looking for, right? But what we can take from this is we can go query type, add to search. Not exactly what I want. Instead, though, with query type, if you're not familiar with DNS, you really should. But what we want to take a look for is A-level records. So the actual specified for domain name. Then we have 29 events. Okay. And then we can see queries, query type. All right. So what I'm going to do again is I wanted to see all the queries that were done at that point in time. So we're looking for all queries that were done within the hour. We're going to make it really easy for us, pulling it out into its own thing. Count by query, remove www.microsoft.com, make it pretty. All right. So for the hour that we had for the server attack, walk it back a little bit. And we see that this server, HHYEDF5FRQA, that's pretty unique. Recognize Microsoft, Microsoft.com, IPinfo.io. Okay, ISATAP, that's pretty actually standard. Shell.windows.com, that's a unique one right there. The solidarity.xprite.org. And Bing, I mean, that's weird. No, I'm joking. And then .local and what is that, WPAD? Sorry, my camera is literally covering my part of the screen over here. So we have some unique stuff. Now, what are some of the things we can do? Because we're missing something here. The question very explicitly asks, what fully qualified domain name does the server ransomware attempt to direct the user to at the end of its encryption phase? So that's going to be the last network address that it's going to go after post encryption, in which case what we want is we need to see this by time. Well, we can adjust this by going, we're going to go table. We want to see these events by underscore time, which is the raw time value, as well as the query. In that, we get a nice little timestamp for everything that's going on, which is 824, 1738, 38, 37. So this is backwards. So what we're looking for now is we're looking for this whole query that I just wrote, A-level records within the hour of around the server notification that we got from Suricata. We're taking a look at the DNS records, so A-level DNS records. And we're doing so, and we're looking backwards from the very last one to the very first. In that, we see that local, Bing, Microsoft, Activision SSL.Microsoft now, Solidare. Whoops, sorry, I didn't sort that correctly. There we go. 1738. And we see server HH whatever dot is likely one to go to. My screen is blurry. Hold on. Let me check. Is everyone seeing something that my screen is blurry? I'm getting a message for that. I don't see that. None of my feedback. Fraser, take a look. We good? It's fine there, guys. Okay, so I'm going to ignore my mod for once. And I'm going to keep going. We're going to try this. The fully qualified domain name is that, and it's a win. One of the other options that we saw in here would be this solidi xpromite something blah blah blah. Okay. Make sure everything's situated. We all good. Okay, everything's good. It's just the mod. This is local machine. No worries. It happens. I've done the same thing. Cheers. So good. If you guys are wondering, I used applewood in that, so I just smoked my glass with applewood. So I'm getting like a lot of the type. I also use applewood sometimes whenever I'm doing It's whenever I'm smoking meat too, or beef or whatever else. So actually, usually I use applewood with pork, but still, like it's a wonderful engagement. You should be jealous. All right, let's move on to the next question. What was the first suspicious domain visited by that particular user on 24 August 2016? Okay. So we can adjust the time frame. Now we know that we're within an hour or so, but why don't we say adjust it back to, that would be 5 o'clock. So we'll just move it all the way back to 12 and see what we get. Okay. Oh wait. Wow. You ever have a dream, dream, and you don't know where? I'll get there. And part of this is me busting off the rust off of some of my skill sets and stuff, because I've been doing a little bit too much admin work lately. So it's all right. We'll get there. So let's flip this around then. In this case, that's the oldest time. We want the youngest time. So we see a lot of... I'm going to blow this up a little bit so we can roll through, make sure we have the right... We have 100 per page. We have 100 per page and only 37 statistics still. Okay, so only 37 events. So let's take a look at this backwards. We're looking for the first thing that doesn't look like a system call. All right. And there we go again. We see that one again. So I'm going to go ahead and try that out. We have approximately 4.5 hours worth of time that we're reviewing right now. We're still at 37. So I think it's safe to say, yeah, because the earliest instances we see are on 4 o'clock for the UTC time. So we're going to use that. Come in here. That looks correct. There you go. Here for a second. Okay. Do you guys have any questions as we are going through this? I know I'm kind of jumping and running and moving really fast through this. I understand. But more so what I wanted to get to talk to you guys about is being able to utilize the critical thinking aspect of investigation. It's very much so. I mean, when you do incident response or you do blue team or purple team operations, you get to be Sherlock Holmes. You know, you get to say, because of this, you know, you get to apply all these levels of critical thinking based on the observations. Now, are you going to be able to, you know, do so to a level of, are you going to be able to do so to a level of just like this insane, you know, verbal kung fu of, you know, X, Y, and Z? Maybe one day. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with like John Hammond or somebody else like that. You've got some investigation ninjas out there that are, yeah, you would very much so could compare them to, you know, Sherlock Holmes. They understand technology that well. So it's up to you to get to that level. But the idea is to, you know, utilize that passion for the technology and to better understand it and better understand the logs and the log types. And I'll show you a good example of this. Hexit, do you know a good DNS tutorial? I've got a couple, not off the top of my head, but give me a second. I can throw them into the resource repository after this. Okay. So like I said, let me show you what I'm talking about, where you can be the detective and it's based on the technology and your understanding of the technology in that, you know. All right. We are going to jump down to one very specifically that I chose for you guys. What is the name of the USB key inserted by Bob Smith? How are we going to find that? Where would you find that? Well, off the bat, USB key inserted by Bob Smith means it's a connected key that's being plugged into the machine, which means it's going to be a local record as opposed to a record from networking or firewalls or anything else like that. So we're going to be looking for some form of Windows-based log. All right. And in that, I'm actually going to remove the time frame qualifier here. Okay. Go ahead and hit stop so we can back this whole thing up. All right, so we're looking for USB. Now, if we take a look at, where are you at? Oh, they don't have it listed here. Okay. Oh, they do, right here. So let me see if I can blow this up any bigger. It's about as big as I can get it. But if you see right here, I need to get a better pointing tool to show you guys. But what I'm pointing at is something called Win Registry. So we have, these are our Windows logs. We have a Windows Event Log application, Windows Event Log Security, Windows Event Log System, Windows Registry, your registry keys, XML Win Event Log, Microsoft Windows, Sysmon Operational. So of those, we have 3 options and possibilities. Windows Event Log application doesn't necessarily write a log when you have a USB key that's inserted. Now, I say necessarily because it will if there's an auto run feature or an application auto run that's built in or that's configured. But it's not a hardware-based log is what I'm saying. Windows Event Log Security could, but again, that's more so about elevation, identity, and access management. So unless there needs to be a change in some form of authorization for that USB key, which keep in mind, these are Windows XP based machines, so you're not going to get that. You're not going to get a UAC, a notification, or anything like that. Windows Event Log System, that's possible. That one's very possible. We also have Windows Registry. One of the things that you should know is that Windows Registry events can happen because that's where we get all of our preferences. That's where we get the engagement for, your quick access menus. You'll see these things pop up. So if this key registered as a new device, we can see that. Sysmon Operational could also be in there as well. But let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and say we take a look, being that this is an XP machine, at the registry, because those things are excellent. So we're going to take a look at, sorry, I kind of paused in the middle of what I was saying. WinXP, when you utilize registry keys at the XP version of Windows, it's actually kind of amazing. They are, it's a very powerful search tool to corroborate what's going on because of the way that it was designed for the favorites and the, bits and bytes of information that make up your Windows experience. So we are going to look at Windows Win Registry. Okay. And then we are going to look for something called a key path. Very explicitly, the path of the Windows key for the folders that would be involved with this specific use. And where could we find something like that? Well, you do a little research. Oh, it's going to be a pain, isn't it? Okay. USB device tracking artifacts on Windows XP. In that, we are looking for vendor product name version or vendor product ID, in which case we have HKLM, system, control set, blah, blah, enum, USB store, disk and vent. We also have drive letter, HKLM software, system mounted devices, Microsoft Windows portable devices, device entry, friendly name and value. So you can look for all of these, go down the path and see what happens. Another idea is, and that nowadays there's plenty of PowerShell based investigative tools that you can do, collection scripts for forensics, things like that. But back in the day, you'd have to write them yourself. So what I used to write is I used to write a script that would just check all of this, print it out to an easy to read information. I would just have to double click a text file and pop it up. Brian Godfrey, don't you just love it when tickets have system and created and ingested timestamps all in together at one point? Oh, it's not as bad as unknown tickets that just get printed because an alert occurred that was unknown on the system, unknown on this, unknown on that. That's another favorite ticket of mine where you have just a straight up error in your automation process and you just get no information copying over because something happened to the regex. So with this, we're going to take a look at key path HKLM, which is local machine. Don't forget double backslashes because you are in quotations. Microsoft, Windows, portable devices, device is, I believe that's it, right? Yep. And then I want to see anything else with that path here. And with that also, we are going to do the where are you? It is WE, sorry, I was having to take a look at my notes and I lost my place. 8105 desk. Wonderful. Where are you? Well, that didn't work. Let's try this. Oh, hey, there you go. All right, so what we have here is we have a modified key, Miranda PRE, it's a registry, operation completed successfully. Okay, so it looks like it updated the friendly name. Here is another downside to these is because this automatically falls into a, it's indexed, so all of these fields are searchable, but these fields automatically are falling into a alphabetized listing, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it makes sense. So if you take a look up here instead, you'll see time, date, stamp, the event status, and the PID, aka processing ID, operation completed successfully, image process, WUDF host.exe, which if you go take a look at that for a process basis, what you'll find on there is you'll find a that's a normal Windows process that handles this type of stuff. The registry type, it's setting a new value. It's setting a new value in the HKLM, which is local machine, software, Microsoft Windows, portable devices, this particular one, UMB, and then the serial number, storage, volume, UB stored, disk, gen prod, flash, disk, friendly name. Well, what is it setting? It's setting the friendly name. The data type is SZ, and the data is Miranda PRI, which means that this data right here is the friendly name of the USB device, which is, what is the name of the USB key inserted by Bob Smith? There you go. So, all right, guys. In this, we have covered, in this series so far, we've covered, like I said, initial basic, CTF style searching for keywords and phrases within there. We've covered utilizing third-party intelligence sources in part 2 and how you were able to find out more information from logical engagement. In part 3, we branched off into a ransomware investigation, and we started talking about how to utilize time frames and time slots with the critical thinking that's involved as well. Part 4 coming up, we are going to start talking about some advanced methods. Okay, I'm going to try to walk you guys through some examples of steganography that's utilized in the ransomware. little more difficult of a show to put together. We'll see how that goes. And I might end up needing more than just next week. So we might do a fluff piece next week and then get back to it on the following. We'll see where that happens. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Do we have any questions? All right. Well, guys, you know, the thing about doing demos is you never know when they're going to end, unfortunately. And I think that I'm going to actually end it here just because I don't have much more to demo for you. If I did, I would be guessing as I went through. I wouldn't be able to clearly answer your questions, and that's not what this type of show is. So, in that, we're coming to the end of the week. I am going to go ahead and throw exclamation point Discord up. Let's go have a good after party in the Discord if you're not familiar with it. We have the members chat area. I will be meeting up with our mods real quick just to have a quick follow-up conversation about why their screen was blurry. And then we will jump into the I can hear him laughing right now. And we will and then I'll jump in and we'll continue on a little bit with the party. It'll be a good time. Having said that, let me see if I can pull this one off. We are coming to the end of the night. I definitely want to thank my mods for the ongoing work, and I want to thank to you. Yes, you, chat. Thank you so much for coming to hang out. I hope that I was definitely the value added. Normally, I would end this with a really quick cheers, but I'm going to try something else because why not? It's a vibe. Come guess me this riddle. What beats piper fiddle? What's harder than mustard and milder than cream? Well, best wet's your whistle. What's clearer than crystal? Sweeter than honey and stronger than steam? What can make the dumb talk? What can make the lame walk? And what's the elixir of life and philosopher's stone? And what helped Mr. Bruno to dig the Thames Tunnel? Sure wasn't it whiskey from old Irish home? So we'll stick to the great. You're the best thing in nature for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. And boys, I'd half wonder if lightning and thunder was made from the plunder of whiskey, me boys. Oh, that's good. Thank you, guys. Hey, thanks for watching. I want to thank Neil and the Cyber Insecurity channel for providing a place to have real conversations with real people. Feel free to throw a like or to follow me on the socials in the description. Please remember to click subscribe, hit that notification bell, and if you want to see other videos, click that stuff that's all over the screen. See you next time.